Hi, I'm Andrea. This video is to recommend 5 things that you should consider when you're designing a fence. These are things that you may not have thought about, but that are really important to consider when designing the fence so that it's everything you need and everything you want for your particular yard and your particular needs for why you're buying the fence. So, the first thing to think about is traffic flow. Fences are installed usually to help control and conduct traffic flow in a backyard. So, for example, a fence is built to keep kids out of a pool, or to keep a dog inside of a yard, or to keep if you're a farmer, farm animals contained. No matter what, fences control traffic flow. So think about the type of fence that you might need depending on how much traffic flow you anticipate having or that you have in your yard. Second thing to think about is that fences establish property lines. So no matter what style of fence that you choose and no matter what product, the fence will act as a barrier in your backyard and it will establish a property line between you and your neighbor. So because of this, people driving by will look at the fence and it becomes part of your home. Lots of people try to match the fence to their home. So think about what color siding you have on your home, or what color is your garage door, and maybe try to coordinate those colors to make sure that the fence becomes part of the aesthetic of your home. Third thing to think about is privacy or view, depending on what you need. So depending on your yard, if you're buying a fence because you just had a pool installed or to keep yourself private from your neighbors, you might want to consider buying a PVC or a wood fence because those styles or those products have a lot of privacy options for fencing. So those are good for people who need privacy. Whereas if you live in a golf course or you live by the water, you don't want to obstruct the view with a fence. So in that case, we would recommend chain link or iron or a glass fence where you can see through the fence and privacy is not obstructed. So think about that. Do you need privacy or do you need to not obstruct your view? Different styles, different products to think about then. Fourth thing is to think about access. So the fence you need to think about how much access you're going to need to your yard once the fence is installed. So what this really means is think about gates. How many gates do you think that you'll need? Where do you want your gates installed? And what size gate is best for you? So the rule of thumb is that most people have the gate installed on the same side of their house that their garage is. It just makes most sense if you're bringing pool equipment in and out of the backyard or your lawnmower. If the gate was installed on the opposite side of the garage, you'd have to bring your lawnmower all the way across the front yard and into the backyard every single time. Whereas if it was installed on the same side as your garage, it's just easier access. So that's what most people do. We don't care, but that's what most people do, just to let you know. Typically, gates are 36 inches, which is 3 feet. It's the same size as like a standard doorway in your home. For most people, that's a fine size for a gate, but it depends. If you are someone who has a lot of yard work happening or a tractor or something larger than a standard doorway, then you might want to think about getting a larger gate or maybe a double gate, depending on how big of a gate you're going to need. So think about access. How often are you going to be in and out of the yard? What's the fence really going to be used for? The last thing is to think about maintenance. Different fence products have very different maintenance requirements. So for example, PVC has a lifetime warranty and it's maintenance free. You can wash it if you want. The main thing that happens to PVC is that it can get a bit dirty over the year. So some people garden hose it or scrub it down a little bit every spring or every 5 years or whatever it's a personal preference. That's the only maintenance required for it. Iron and chain link fences typically last about 20 years, and they do require a little bit more maintenance. People clean it. They need to be washed every spring is what we recommend, so once a year. Whereas wood has no warranty and does require a lot more maintenance. Depending on your particular preferences, a lot of people stain their wood fences, which we would recommend at least every 5 years, but maybe even more depending on preserving, like how much it matters to you. Basically, it's a personal preference. I would stain my fence probably every 5 years, but my coworker, who we share an office, he swears you should do it every single year. So it's just up to you to preserve the fence. So that's something to consider. Also consider cost, because if you're staining the fence every year, that's a cost every single year for your fence. Versus PVC, there is no additional cost because the only maintenance required is cleaning. So to review, 5 things to think about when you're buying your fence or designing your fence is traffic flow, property lines, privacy, access, and maintenance. The main thing to think about is, why are you buying the fence? Are you buying it to keep kids inside of your yard or away from your pool? Are you buying it to keep the yard safe from, animals in the neighborhood? It doesn't matter. Think about why you're buying the fence, how often you're going to use the fence, how private do you want the fence to be? Definitely things to consider. If you have any questions, give us a call. Check out our website. Tons of information on there, and we're happy to help.